For 6 years I had been Avery, and every single morning I rose at 5 sharp to pick Adrian's tie and suit. All of Eastbridge's old money matrons laughed at me, Reed impoverished pretty face who'd schemed her way up and still couldn't leash her husband's heart. They didn't know Adrian and I were nothing but a contract marriage, term, 6 years. Today is the last day of that contract. I carried the divorce decree and walked into the Vance mansion. Theodore looked me over. Does Adrian know? I smiled. That's irrelevant, grandfather. The clock has run out. As I stepped out, Adrian called. Accompany me to the charity gala tonight. While you're at it, handle the Stella situation. I gave a soft laugh. Quinn, go recruit your next Avery. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. The alarm was set for 5. A single crisp beep echoed through the vast, empty bedroom, and I silenced it before a second. 6 years, 2,190 days, habit made the hour immovable. The place beside me was cold, the sheets uncreased. Adrian hadn't come home last night, he rarely did. Yet every dawn I rose like the most dutiful employee, laying out the tie and jacket he would wear, hanging them in the most conspicuous spot of the walk-in couture vault. That vault was enormous, crammed with current season haute couture gowns, jewels blazing under recessed lights. Pity most of them weren't me, they were the respectability Avery was required to wear. I knew exactly how the ladies of Eastbridge sneered behind my back, their sidelong glances dissecting every stitch. Look at Serena, what does she have besides that face? Slum sparrow in haute couture, thinks a ball gown turns her into a phoenix. Can't even keep her man. Adrian changes women faster than shirts. They ridiculed my poverty, my alleged scheming, and the way I clung to a title I could never secure, paying off the starlets who flung themselves at him, mopping up his messes like a high-priced firefighter. Virtue? Generosity? Bigger jokes, in their mouths. They would never learn this marriage had been a transaction from day one. Term, 6 years. Today is day 2191. I bypassed the couture vault and went straight to the bedroom's biometric safe, punched the code, and pulled out a thin manila folder. Inside, a few sheets of paper. On top, bold black heading, divorce decree. I slipped into the plainest white cotton dress I owned, simple cut, cheap fabric, utterly alien to the opulence around me. No jewelry, just a basic shoulder bag. As I descended, housekeeper Mrs. Green blinked. Madam, no breakfast? Adrian's tie. I smiled at her. In 6 years this kind woman may have been the only person who didn't see me as a punchline. No need, Mrs. Green. Today. I have business. The car rolled toward the Vance estate. Inside the ancestral mansion silence pressed like lead. Theodore sat on a carved rosewood sofa, rolling 2 polished walnuts, eyes hawk-sharp. He eyed the envelope I placed on the tea table but did not open it. Does Adrian know? His voice was low. Back straight, I met his gaze, lips curved in perfect courtesy. That doesn't matter, sir. Time's up. He studied me. In those worldly pupils gleamed a flicker of approval, then he waved. The lawyer stepped forward and offered a second folder. Inside, a freshly cut check. Zeros lined up, enough to buy half of Eastbridge. I glanced once, then slid it back. As agreed, I'll take only what's mine. My share could keep me comfortable for life, yet it was a pittance against the Vance fortune. Theodore didn't insist. He merely granted me 1 week of legal cooling off. Outside, sunlight stabbed, I squinted, drinking the free air. My phone vibrated in the bag. I hesitated, thumb brushing screen, then answered. His familiar drawl, half lazy, half commanding, floated over background chatter of some function. 7 tonight, Peninsula Hotel, charity gala. And the model surnamed Sue, photos are out again, handle it, routine. I looked down, voice lighter than I'd ever heard it. Quinn, I chuckled, go find yourself a new Avery. A dead, bottomless quiet answered me. The phone buzzed again. Avery, the voice oily and smug, this one's big, a fresh ingenue, squeaky clean image. Video's crystal, backseat footage. You interested? Eastbridge's paparazzi had fed well off Adrian for 6 years. His revolving door of women, and their greedy lenses, had been daily chores for me. Before, I would listen, wire the hush money and text, appreciate it, you know the drill. Today I hung up before he could promise exclusivity. The black screen reflected a face unruffled. Crystal chandeliers rained light over the long dining table set for one. I lifted the silver spoon, sipping bird's nest porridge. Temperature perfect, creamy sweet like every other night of the last 6 years. But tonight I tasted not resentment, freedom. I didn't even picture Adrian tangled in the back seat with that model called Stella, no longer important. His philandering, his humiliations, the laughter, today they became relics of another life. Memory, though, is a loose latch that pops open unbidden. In the early days it hadn't been like this. Front pages of every Eastbridge paper were plastered with our obscenely lavish wedding. I wore a multi-million-dollar wedding gown on his arm, diamonds, flowers, celebrity awe. Then a gossip rag splashed the headline, Slum Orchid steals crown with homewrecker scheme. The next day that publication vanished without trace. Adrian had toyed with my hair, voice lazy yet lethal. My wife is not tabloid fodder. For a brief instant I had believed that was love. Now, the door banged open. Adrian barged in, reeking of unfamiliar, cloying perfume. He loosened his tie, smirk in place, eyes sizing me up. Which idiot pounced this time? What's the asking price? I didn't answer. Instead I slid the personnel tablet across the table. Annabelle's resume fails the executive assistant benchmark, read art history degree, 0 corporate project or admin background. She doesn't meet his hiring criteria. His smile cooled. Annabelle, fine as a hairline splinter, wedged between us for years. She is the genuine white moonlight in Adrian's chest, fragile, spotless, and, once, poor. Back then, Theodore had traded Adrian's consent to marry me for the price of sending her abroad for graduate school. Now, she was back. He looked at me, eyes sharpening, carrying a probe and a flicker of contempt I wasn't meant to catch. Serena, he said, on what authority are you lecturing me, Avery, or, just jealous? Jealous? I stared at the handsome, alien face I no longer recognized. Inside me lay only scorched flat calm. The air felt suddenly congealed. Adrian kept watching, fishing for the smallest crack after tossing out that word. I only tapped the cold edge of the tablet and steered us back to business. As a Vance Industries shareholder and, at least on paper, the VP still overseeing part of HR, I'm stating a fact. Promoting Annabelle violates policy, it won't hold water. He gave a soft, scornful laugh, gaze icing over. Policy? Consensus? Serena, since when does anyone at Vance second guess me? Same old pattern. Annabelle's name snaps the fragile truce we pretend to keep. In the first 2 years it hadn't been like this. Rumors fluttered everywhere, but he'd been careful. No headline, no photo, no leak about her ever reached me. He knew it was the one line. Then came my birthday last year. Half a month early he'd had word put out that he would bid on the deep, the tier of the abyss blue diamond the moment it hit Sotheby's, as my gift. Every gossip column swooned. Quinn pampers his wife senseless. That night he arrived late, dangling a cultured pearl strand, pretty, but galaxies short of the blaze everyone expected. He fastened it on me with rehearsed tenderness. I only smiled and let him. The next morning a casual acquaintance accidentally mentioned seeing Annabelle at a private gallery opening, the deep flashing at her throat. A spike of ice, not pain, pure cold, pierced me. He knew he'd crossed the line. He came home early, brought my favorite dessert, voice softer than I'd ever heard, claiming the blue diamond didn't suit me. Pathetic. I didn't cry, didn't accuse, simply stepped aside when he tried to pull me close. Somehow Annabelle heard. She drove through a torrential downpour to the clifftop mansion, knelt on the soaked gravel, hair plastered to her tear-streaked face, begging forgiveness. Adrian had only pitied her. Adrian sprinted out, heartbreak naked in his eyes. When he glanced back, rage blazed at me for witnessing her humiliation. That look snapped the last thread of ridiculous hope. 6 years, enough. Before the word divorce left my mouth, Annabelle called again, voice shaking that someone was tailing her. Adrian snatched his car keys and vanished into the storm without a backward glance. The mansion echoed with drumming rain and me. Now, tired beyond measure, I slid the tablet shut and stood. Your call is, of course, unimpeachable. Just remember, when the executive assistant bungles, you'll be the one firefighting, not her. I left without waiting for his retort, had the driver take me to the Vance estate. Theodore didn't seem surprised to see me stride in near midnight. In the bookline study scented with puer, I let the word fall calm and clear, divorce. He turned a porcelain teacup in silence, then spoke. Serena, I'd banked on you. You're cleverer and tougher than you let on. I assumed you'd follow Eleanor's path, forget love, keep the title, the power, the checks, and stay Avery. The family needs a mistress who can run the boardroom and the ballroom. I lowered my lashes. Forget love, if only. Grandfather, I said, voice soft but steady. Without that illusion, I couldn't have lasted 6 years. Those final, pulverized crumbs of feeling for Adrian had propped up the performance, poised, gracious, numb. Now even dust had scattered. Theodore studied me as if weighing souls. At last he sighed. Once you walk, the Van Cess won't offer a return ticket. I understand. No hesitation. He waved dismissal. Pick a date, the lawyers will handle the rest. Dylan. In the corridor I met my mother-in-law, reed elegant woman crystal bright with unspoken regrets. Leaving? She murmured. I nodded. She patted my hand, a rare tenderness. Good. Go find your happiness, Serena. My throat burned, I swallowed the tears and smiled, free. I discharged one last duty, scrubbing a compromising video of Adrian and a runway model from the cloud, closing my 6-year career with a clean file. Then I went to find Adrian. The club's heavy door stood ajar, laughter and whiskey fumes spilled out. Adrian, only Annabelle could leash our prince, so when's the wedding? The squatting pretender should have stepped aside ages ago. Annabelle's fluttering protests, half refusal, half invitation. I stepped inside, the room froze. Adrian lounged on the main sofa, Annabelle curled against him. Contempt glittered in his eyes, no surprise, just theater. I crossed to him. Can we talk, outside? He swirled his drink, smirking. Say it here. I knew better, he savored my discomfort. I'll wait in the corridor. Before he could snarl, Annabelle chased me out and blocked my path. The fragility she'd worn a moment ago had vanished. Her eyes darted with urgency and a glee she couldn't quite hide. Serena, Adrian doesn't love you. Why keep clinging? Be smart, step aside. I looked at her, then past her, toward the private dining suite. Adrian hadn't come out. He hadn't stopped her. I almost laughed. Step aside? I echoed, cold and quiet. The title Avery was never anyone's to give. I left her standing there, face flushing mottled white and green, and walked straight to the elevator. Behind me, someone inside the room teased, Adrian, aren't you going after her? The boss lady looks really pissed. Then his voice, steady, certain, carried clearly through the door, she won't leave. She can't live without me. The elevator door slid shut, sealing that sentence, and the whole 6-year farce, outside. Adrian was apparently the last person in the Vance family to realize I was dead serious about divorce. Tessa delivered the news, bursting into the executive suite like a firecracker. Bro. Serena's actually filing. She's already hired lawyers. He glanced up from a takeover binder, brow uncreased, and curved a lazy smile. Temper tantrum. He leaned back in the leather throne, loose and sure of his control. Freeze her out a few days, she'll trot right back. Tessa pouted. She'd hated me ever since I'd swiped the perfect sister-in-law spot from her best friend 6 years ago. All this time she'd sniped and tripped me, delighting in every rumor. So the instant she heard I was out, she threw a party that night, installed the old bestie on Adrian's right, and chirped matchmaking hints. Lindsay's waited forever. Finally, she didn't finish. A soft but razor-edged voice cut in. Tessa, Adrian just crawled out of one bad marriage. Your timing stinks. Annabelle had appeared, wineglass swirling, smile flawless. Tessa bristled. Who asked you, Annabelle? I've been beside Adrian for years, Annabelle purred. No one knows him better, or suits him better. She'd bided 6 years overseas. Now, with victory close, she wasn't letting anyone grab the crown. The Avery slot would be hers. One woman traded on pedigree, the other on history, and before I'd even cleared the doorway they were spitting claws over the seat I was vacating. Adrian sat in the middle of the noise, sipping like a man half asleep, as if the catfight were a casual sideshow, or maybe a show he'd enjoyed his whole life. He probably thought my departure was just another disposable episode of the endless Adrian drama. He started dodging me, calls unanswered, texts on read, the usual haunts empty. He believed if he stalled long enough I'd fold, the way I always had, and resume my role as capable, docile Avery. I wasn't in a hurry. Theodore never broke a deal. The old man treasured promises more than reputation. He wouldn't let a timed contract drag on forever. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Adrian showed up. He was leaning against the matte black coupe outside my new condo, face shadowed, irritation leaking from every pore. Serena, he rasped, what's so bad about keeping things as they are? After a divorce you'll have nothing. Watching him, I flashed back to prenup day. He hadn't known I'd had a separate clause with Theodore, If I still wanted out at year 6, the patriarch would pay the exit bonus. When the old man wouldn't budge, Adrian, just once, argued for me. In the end, he'd simply opened a shell and slipped seed money into a startup under my name, sliding the papers across his desk with sober eyes. Serena, quit banking on feelings. Only cash never betrays you. I'd trusted him then, trusted that, to him, I was at least a special asset. But special had been crushed under 6 years of neglect, lies, and every exception he made for Annabelle. He'd personally shredded every illusion I'd ever had about love. I'd arrived a starry-eyed girl, I'd nearly left a hysterical ghost. What stood here now was cold, clear Serena. I have enough, I said evenly. At least I still own the company that never betrays, don't I? His expression shifted, he remembered his own line. I passed him a slip with the City Hall appointment. Next Wednesday, 9 a.m. He stared for a full beat, no sorrow, just bruised ego and, maybe, relief. Finally he smirked, folded the note. Fine. Alex, at least you're polite enough to vacate the seat. I watched him drive off and felt only gratitude that, for 6 years, neither of us had wanted kids. Clean break. Perfect. The morning of the divorce was slate gray, drizzle drifting like torn silk. I waited in City Hall's lobby almost read hour, watching beaming couples rush in and grim pairs trudge out. 5 minutes to closing, he appeared, black suit sharp, complexion darker than the sky. No apology, no explanation. Sign, thumbprint, clerk clanks the seal, hands us each burgundy booklet. All done. He pocketed his copy without looking and walked away, zero backward glance. Holding the still warm booklet, I felt my fingers burn. 6 years, whittled to a sliver of paper. Back at the clifftop mansion I began the final inventory. I left every Avery bauble in the walk-in couture vault, sequined haute couture gowns, diamond riviere, the works, and packed only street clothes that were mine before vows. Halfway through, the bedroom door slammed open. Annabelle click-clacked in, gaze sweeping the room with possessive judgment. Just checking, Miss Vance. We wouldn't want you accidentally taking what isn't yours. I paused, looked up. These years, with Adrian's introductions, she'd mutated from timid scholarship girl to self-made influencer, #humble, #hustle. She saved the damp-eyed damsel act purely for him, the rest of us got the viper. Get out, I said, voice low, glacial. She bristled, shrill, you order me out? This is about to be my house. I'm the woman Adrian will marry. I have every right to watch you pack, future lady of the manor. After swallowing 6 years of slander, I was supposed to bow to her too, ridiculous. I didn't waste any more words on her, I simply called security. Annabelle's face drained of color. Serena, you dare. Adrian won't let you get away with this. 2 guards appeared within seconds. With perfect courtesy and iron finality, they motioned for her to leave. What are you doing? Let go of me. Do you even know who I am? She thrashed as they escorted her out. The day I left Eastbridge, I deleted every trace of Adrian from my phone and blacklisted every so-called friend who might speak for him. The old Serena, along with that humiliating marriage, stayed behind in the glittering, freezing city. I moved to Saltmere, a southern coastal town with no dynastic gossip to upkeep, no reputations to polish. The air tasted of salt and freedom. With the settlement from the divorce and the company I'd already built, I launched a new venture. I chose the site, oversaw the build-out, interviewed every hire, chased every launch campaign myself. I spun like a top from dawn to midnight, leaving no crevice where memories could creep in. Late at night the wound 6 years had carved beneath my ribs still ached, but less and less often. The new place, the new work, gentle antidotes, smoothed the creases one by one. I learned to eat alone, to watch the tide alone, to treasure silence. In the mirror the numbness and swallowed rage receded, replaced by something steadier, almost calm. One afternoon, while my team and I whiteboarded a pitch deck, my phone vibrated across the table. I answered without thinking. Mrs. Vance, Adrian's chief secretary began, I'm sorry to intrude, but Mr. Vance is drunk. He keeps asking for your hangover cure. We can't calm him. Behind her, glass shattered and a low, slurred mutter I still recognized floated through the static. For a second the room tilted and I was back in that kitchen, wooden spoon in hand, guarding a simmering pot. The illusion lasted a heartbeat. I cut the secretary off mid-sentence and tapped the screen, then blocked the number. After that, anonymous parcels started arriving at the studio, limited edition jewels, this season's haute couture bags, even a small museum-grade canvas. The pattern was familiar. Every time a gossip rag story had bruised me, he'd mailed glittering bandages. He still believed a few carrots could buy my silence. I found it almost funny. He never learned respect, he only rented remorse. I accepted every gift. Then I rang my contacts in resale and quietly converted them to cash. The windfall seeded our operating budget, his belated investment in my future. I sent no thank you notes. After burning through 8 figures, Adrian finally appeared in person, at a cocktail fundraiser where I was courting a lead investor. Impeccably tailored, he still commanded the room the moment he stepped through the doors. I was laughing with the investor when the air contracted. Dozens of curious eyes ping-ponged between us. Our divorce had been page 6 fodder for weeks. Theodore's conglomerate had been closing a transatlantic partnership when Annabelle leaked a cuddly selfie captioned with heart emojis. Overnight she went from micro-influencer to pariah, the stock wobbled, and the board had to issue a statement confirming we'd already filed the divorce decree. She vanished from social media, handle deactivated. Adrian, though, looked unscathed. He carried his scotch over, urbane as ever. Serena. Long time. I ignored him, apologized to the investor, and turned to leave. Adrian shifted, blocking me. The blogs are calling you heroic and me the villain. You've made your point. Ready to come home? Cold fury spiked through me. A tantrum? A game? The years I'd swallowed my pride, the nights I'd felt my self-worth erode grain by grain, he filed it under playthings fit. You never took me seriously, so you never took our marriage seriously, I said, voice glacial. I'm not a child. I walked away, and I'm never walking back. His roguish smirk dimmed, then resettled into tolerant amusement. He reached for my wrist. Fine, my fault. I'm apologizing. Let's go. The penthouse feels wrong without you. The crack of my palm against his cheek was swallowed by the ballroom's din, yet the little circle around us froze. My hand stung, my lungs burned. He touched his reddening jaw, almost curious. Feel better? Good. Let's head home. In that instant, looking at his handsome, vacuous face, I felt only bottomless absurdity. He would never understand. I turned, spine straight, and walked out through the hush of stairs. The mask discarded, Adrian began haunting my days, leaning against his car outside my studio, sliding uninvited into supplier dinners, materializing at the cafe where I answered emails. Silent, stubborn, always watching. When the latest launch campaign wrapped, I put the entire staff on sabbatical, booked a red-eye, and flew alone to him Alpine Village famed for glacial lakes and silence. Trail jacket, no makeup, I hiked the shoreline until even the echo of his presence dissolved. Serena? A hesitant female voice carried across the wind. I turned. Tessa, without her usual courtiers, dressed in sensible fleece, the bratty edge dulled. Surveying me, she offered Reed awkward shrug. You look different. Better. I smiled faintly. Alex. We shared a table at a cafe overlooking the water. Stirring her latte, she blurted, after you left, my best friend Lindsay cornered Adrian. I raised Reed eyebrow, unsurprised. You know what happened next? Tessa scrunched her nose. My dear cousin didn't even look her in the eye. Right now it's like you're the only person in the world to him, crazy. She glanced at me with a smirk. I used to think you weren't good enough for him. Now, looks like he's the one who doesn't deserve you. Hearing that from her stunned me. The next dawn I pushed open the chalet's timber door, planning to watch the sunrise, and immediately saw the familiar silhouette leaning against the Jeep parked out front. Adrian. He had chased me all the way here, like a ghost that refused to be exorcised. The resentment I'd swallowed for months surged up. I didn't even notice Tessa stepping onto the porch next door, ready for the show. Adrian, are you done? My voice cracked like a whip. I've made myself crystal clear, we're divorced, we're nothing. This stalking only disgusts me, makes me despise you. He clearly hadn't expected me to strip him of dignity in front of Reed audience. His face darkened, words forming. Well said. Tessa suddenly clapped, laughing. She looked at him sideways, venom sweetened with sugar. Cousin, did you hear that? She finds you nauseating. You didn't cherish her when you had her, and now you play the heartbroken prince? Classic case of the ungettable drives you mad. Welcome to your own burning pit, may your chase burn bright. Adrian's expression went full charcoal. Not long afterward I met Miles, a clingy golden retriever type. A younger man wasn't a crime, at least it felt easy, light. Word somehow reached Adrian. He abandoned $1 billion takeover bid and flew straight to my city. He cornered Miles and me outside my office, eyes raking the boy like blades. "Serena, your taste has plummeted," he sneered. "This barely grown kid, what is there besides cheekbones? What can he possibly give you?" Miles didn't flinch or rage the way I'd expected. He blinked his innocent eyes and answered sweetly, needle wrapped in velvet, "Hey, uncle, Serena happens to like them young and energetic, normal, right? Who wants to cuddle read iceberg that never thaws?" Adrian's face went livid, he shot us a murderous glare and hissed, "Wake up, Serena. These boys aren't sincere, they're after your bank balance and spotlight." I watched him stride away, the scene absurd beyond words. I told myself, perfect. Right now, the last thing I want is someone selling me love. Soon I discovered Miles wasn't the simple puppy he played. His ordinary backstory was fiction, he was textbook trust fund. I cut the cord on the spot. He turned pitiful, eyes rimmed red. "Being rich is a crime? I genuinely like you." I allowed zero wiggle room. Rich or poor, honesty is non-negotiable. Goodbye, hyped up rich pup. Soon another man stepped into the frame. Daniel, Reed, architect from a Riley family, hardworking, steady, sincere. Being together felt calm, effortless. Adrian's mockery arrived on schedule. "Have your fun, Serena. You'll realize soon enough who actually fits you. I'll wait until you're bored." But this time my relationship proved rock steady, way beyond his predictions. Panic crept into his voice. Calls multiplied, tone shifting from sarcastic to frantic. Then one midnight his slurred call came, hoarse, broken, raw. "Serena. I was wrong. I regret everything. I can't function without you, please come back." Even Eleanor, once distant, rang me. "Serena, Adrian, he's a wreck. Maybe, come see him?" She sighed, "Forget it, he brewed this poison himself. He deserves no pity." I held the phone, heart quiet as still water. I knew Adrian was waiting for the scene where I crash, bruised, and crawl back to him, ready to wear the ivory crown again and sing inside his cage. "But Adrian, you still don't get it. A person may, blinded by love, play the fool once. Once she sobers up she will never hand the same knife back and let it carve her twice. My road points forward, no U-turns." A summons from his mother dragged Adrian back to the ancestral mansion, her voice uncharacteristically grave. He stepped into the drawing room rubbing his throbbing temples, last night's bourbon fog still lifting. His gaze swept the coffee table, and froze. His elegant wedding invitation lay there. His heart felt clenched by his invisible fist. He almost stumbled as he lunged, snatching it up with shaking fingers. The guilt-embossed name seared his eyes. "Serena, getting married." A metallic sweetness flooded his throat. They had met when they had nothing, walked more than a decade together until their bond was marrow-deep. He believed that no matter how they tore at each other, the tether would hold. Even when pity for Annabelle's fragility distracted him, he had never truly planned to let Serena go. He was certain she would tire of flying and glide home. Yet she had built a brand new life, and never intended to notify him about the wedding. His mother had placed the invitation where he couldn't miss it. How could she? He muttered, knuckles whitening. What gave him the delusion she still loved him? Those repeated humiliations, or every time he chose someone else over her. Delayed pain crashed over him like a tsunami, each heartbeat a hacksaw slash across his chest until he doubled up, gasping. In a blur he saw 18-year-old Serena in a simple white sundress, sprinting toward him through sunlight, smile dazzling, eyes carrying the galaxy's sparkle, all for him. "Adrian!" Instinctively he reached to capture the mirage. His fingertips met only frigid air. The vision dissolved, only his mother remained on the sofa, watching him fall apart, a frosty smirk lifting her lips. "Hurts now, does it?" Eleanor's voice was pure ice. "You and your father, same factory defect." He couldn't understand. Why had his mother endured his father's lifelong affairs while Serena wouldn't even endure 6 years for him? He staggered out of the mansion. A month later he found himself at the wedding venue, lurking in the shadows. He watched Serena in her ivory wedding gown, smile radiant, relaxed, read expression she had never worn beside him. She and Daniel slid rings onto each other's fingers, kissed beneath a rain of blessings. The sight scorched his eyes. He stumbled back, spine hitting the cold stone wall. In his pocket lay the medical report he had just collected. Advanced gastric cancer. The physician ordered immediate hospitalization. At first the diagnosis had felt unreal. Now it struck him, maybe this was mercy. The time left would be short, he wouldn't have to simmer for decades in the agony of losing her. He cast one last look toward the direction of her happiness, then melted into the crowd, a stray dog with nowhere to call home. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and share it with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales. See you next time.